the finance minister have done in order to boost up the saving rates?
So the savings rate earlier was 3.5%, then it has been deregulated. So now every bank charges according to its condition. Like
there is a difference between savings rate and rate of interest.
Yes. So I'm
asking about savings rate, the macroeconomic parameter called savings.
Okay. So the savings is, as you could see, the majority of savings has always been in just...
Are you aware of what is the rate of savings? Has it come down? Has it gone up?
No, sir.
Rate of investment, has it come down? Has it gone up?
No, sir, I am not aware of that.
These steps in the banking and equity, do they have to do anything with the rate of investment, rate of savings?
So the savings as a whole has come down.
What?
As a whole, I mean, I don't have the exact figures, but I can say that the savings as a whole has come down. So that is primarily the reason the finance ministry has taken this step.
Okay. What is the rate of change in the gross capital formation in the economy? Any idea? It's all right. It doesn't matter.
No, I'm sorry, sir.
You don't have to give the figure, but what has it dropped down?
I don't have the exact figure, but
don't worry.
I just
gone up, went down, why it has gone down, why it has gone up, that kind of thing. Don't worry about the data. Any idea about it?
Just quick question. There was an announcement in the as part of the tax announcement, something pertaining to offshore transactions, which has been in the news lately. Would you have any thoughts on that? Would you be able to speak about that?
Actually, in 2012 and 13 budget, the primary reason given for the increase in revenue in IT sector has been because of the offshorings. And these offshorings have contributed to the volumes part of it and not to the prices part of it, because the prices have remained flat. And the sector which has impacted primarily due to this offshoring has been IT services sector in IT department.
No, my question was different. There was some pronouncement with respect to taxation of offshore transactions, which has become a very public issue, very highly talked about today in most finance journals and newspapers, and it's impacting a lot of companies.
Offshore, we saw this figure of offshore transaction, but we covered the areas like special economic zones, which were taken off the privilege of tax holiday benefits. There was also transfer pricing. We covered the transfer pricing part of it. It needed more of transparencies and all the disclosure of the issues. We covered the MAT part of it, that the MAT was increased, but I think offshoring...
It is, I think it's regarding the IT companies increasing offshoring back to India because of some flat, because of the flat industry's margin there in the offshore, in US and European market, flat growth. Because they have to cut the growth, and there is no growth in fact, and the prices are also very flat there. So they are cutting to increase their operating margin and reduce their cost. They are shifting off their major IT part to India, offshoring. Is that the same view? Is it in the market?
Well, not exactly. I'll just take a couple of seconds to clarify what exactly it is. Which I'll probably cover a little later during my presentation. One of the things that they are saying is they can reopen a whole lot of the tax assessments, etc., from 1962. And that is when the Income Tax Act came into place. So a lot of companies are really running scared because they have bought over companies. And I think you would have heard of the Vodafone case and all that.
Yeah, Vodafone is still running.
It was a direct result of that, the government getting back and saying, actually putting a rule into the tax books to actually go and tax these guys, and it's caused a lot of confusion and people are really getting worried about it. And these can run into a very large number. I thought just a piece of information, I'll cover it. Thank you.
Any question from audience?
See, the government's move in terms of, making the interest from savings bank account tax-free up to 10,000 rupees. Do you think it's really useful? Because nobody would want to keep, up to 2.5 to 3 lakhs average balance in a savings bank account just to earn interest of 10,000 and then, let it be tax-free. Don't you think the government could have done something better on this?
See, the point is, it's not that people do keep 3 lakhs just for the point of view of interest. Is that if you have some amount with you, you would naturally divert some amount into gold, some into equity. So some amount would definitely be remaining in the savings account. So added to that, if you could get a tax exemption also on that, so that would be benefit. As sir has told, the savings rate has come down. So maybe the finance minister thinks, the finance ministry as a whole thinks that going forward, this can influence the savings deposit as a whole. So in that sense, I think it's a good move. But the outcome has yet to be seen. But
again, don't you really think it's not really so much enforceable? Because what happens is the bank would not deduct TDS on your interest up to 10,000 rupees anyway. So people anyway, I mean, in India, if you've really seen, people don't declare their interest from savings bank account. For that matter, a lot of other investment income at all in the returns. So how do you really see this as a great move? I mean, I think it would have as well not been taken. That's what I think.
Now see, as per the enforceability part, I can't comment on that how much, but since it's an order by finance minister, it would definitely be implemented. But as you rightly said, now the outcome of this has to be awaited, since this is the first time the government has come out with such a thing. Now, what we feel, the thinking behind this, as I told earlier, is just to increase the saving. Now, outcome, I'm not sure. All I can say is we'll have to just wait and watch.
Any other question?
Present their analysis on the budget.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Vishal Mehta, and here are my teammates Pradeep Lunia and Puneet Singhal, and we are here to give our analysis of Union Budget 2012-13. This is a brief agenda of the topics we are going to cover. The growth in the Indian economy was interrupted this year due to a number of factors. Some of them are listed below. It was primarily due to the Eurozone debt crisis, then followed the political turmoil in the Middle East, and then the shooting up of the crude oil prices, and the Japanese earthquake and post-recovery, and last but not the least, the 2008 recession in US and the things to follow on. When the budget was announced, the investors in India and all throughout the world were glued in the television sets as to what was in store for them. This is the snapshot of the Sensex price movements. Sensex price movements are an indicator of the investor sentiments. As is it clearly visible here, any positive news marked up the Sensex price movement to rise and vice versa. Now, whenever we hear of Union Budget, there are some things that come to our mind. There are fourfold objectives. Number one, what is the growth projected for the economy and for the country as a whole? But with growth comes inflation. So, what are the inflation figures which are expected for the year to come? Now, thirdly, what is in store for subsidies for the farmers and for the various industry sectors? And last but not the least, what are the tax reliefs for the common man? This is a snapshot of the performance of our economy from the year 2007 to 2012 and the projections for the year 2013. As it is clearly visible here, the fiscal deficit was at its peak from the period of 2008 onwards to 2010. This was primarily due to the boost in the economy post the US recession, and the GDP growth rates from the previous 2 years of 8.4% of GDP, it came down to 6.9% in this fiscal year, and it is projected to grow at 7.6% in the fiscal year coming forward. The targets to be achieved. As per the words of the Pranav Mukherjee, our respected finance minister, the main objective of this year's budget was to accelerate the pace of reforms and to improve the supply side management of the economy. Clearly, the budget focused at 5 areas. Number one is to increase domestic demand. What the government did was to decrease the direct taxes, and how it would benefit is from the fact that the people will have more money in their hands, the purchasing power of people will increase, which will in turn result into more demand, more consumption, and hence better production. Second, to boost the investment in the private sector, what the government took steps was the Rajiv Gandhi equity scheme and the reduction in STT and measures such as the tax-free investment in power sector. To address the issue of supply side bottleneck, what the government was did was to ensure that the FII come into the sectors such as national highways, roads, and aviation sectors. The government has also planned to set aside 13,000 crores to address the issue of malnutrition. And last but not the least, the government has to address the issue of governance and transparency. It did so by ensuring that the UID project, other project, gets proper investment, and also made it mandatory for reporting of the assets held by Indians abroad, so as to increase the transparency. Now, how will the government finance all these expenditures is to what we should consider. There are three primary areas to focus on in this. First, the government increase the indirect taxes. Now, how will it impact is from the fact given